Everyone, and welcome back. Today I have with me an incredible doula here in the south of Sweden. Her name is Klara, and I'll just let her introduce herself. So, hi, Klara, and who are
Hi.
you?
Yeah, we just started chatting away a bit before pressing record. I'm Klara, like you so eloquently introduced. I work as a doula in the south of Sweden. I am a mother to my son Frey, who is now 2.5. I am on the very end of finishing my degree to be a psychologist. So working towards that, which means I'm also writing my thesis, where I'm writing about motherhood and the impact of motherhood in all of who we are. Basically, that's very brief, and then we can dive to whichever one of those you're curious.
Yeah. No, I just felt I was in Portland, Oregon. I was about to move to Sweden, and I was like, okay, I need to find my community. I need to find my people. And you were one of the people that I was like, oh, I have to talk to her. I have to get to know her. So I was just so glad that you were open to doing this, even though we haven't officially met in person. But yeah, I love what you share and all your stories on Instagram. So I'm excited to talk all about all the doula stuff with you today. So I would love to hear, like, how did your journey to becoming a doula, how did that even start? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think it started. I have such a love-hate relationship to Instagram, but like one thing that Instagram did to me that was really, really good was that years before I was pregnant, and actually also like a couple of years before I even knew that it was time for me to even want to think about having children, I followed this woman who started talking about physiological birth, and she just wrote it like, "Oh, just physiological birth." I'm like, "What's physiological birth? What's the difference between birth and physiological?" Like I had no clue. And I think that was just the start of really like going down the rabbit hole around everything birth. And having the background that I have within psychology, because even before I did the studies that I'm doing now, I did a previous degree with lots of neuropsychology and everything. It just made so much sense. I could feel how, you know, just the way like birth works and the hormones and the psychology of it and the safety parts, like it was just like so many puzzle pieces, like making just a really cool motive that I just felt so called to. I don't know if that analogy works. I never thought it put it that way, but
It does.
yeah. But in that time, I didn't think about becoming a doula because I was just really interested, and it just felt such a given. Then I became pregnant, and it was an even bigger opportunity to really dive deep into everything. Like I can be nerdy, and I just loved to learn everything, and also confronting to learn about the history of birth and why it looks the way it does today, and in different cultures, and yeah, just so many dynamics, because birth, pregnancy, it really leaves no area of life outside of it. In a way, you can have that lens on so much. And yeah, so I just loved learning more and really going into it. um, and then I gave birth to my son, which it was an incredible experience. It was really, really beautiful. I was really, really happy, and I can talk more about that also. But I think feeling the difference and knowing like the importance of support in that moment, and really also feeling this disconnect in what we need for birth and what is actually normally just provided. There's just like this gap, I feel like. So then, about a year later, I found myself in Bali. I bumped into a woman on the beach who was from the same small town as me in Bali. And she talked about her birth and me about our birth. Our children were exactly the same age, like 3 days apart. And she told me, she's like, "Oh, yeah, but I'm doing this doula training with this person." And I had already heard about Robin Lim. Uh, and I just knew, I was like, shit, I have to be there. So
Oh
I
my.
changed my home flight, like pushed it a week, and I just went there.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, so you were just like randomly there.
I was randomly there, and it's like so many, once again, so many pieces of it, because it was also so funny that it was called Eat, Pray, Doula. And like 3 years earlier, I had been on a women's retreat in India where I met Elizabeth Gilbert because she was there. So I was like, it's so funny. Like this, finding myself in places with the right people is, yeah, I just love, yeah. So it was really easy. I mean, I was thinking through it, like, am I gonna go do this now? Because also I can have this thought about all the things you want to do and maybe later in life. And I was like, no, like this is the
Oh yeah.
opportunity. So yeah, that's a little bit on the
Oh. So
on
you just end up randomly doing this doula training in Bali. What was that like? Because I've seen it, eat, pray, love. I mean, it's my dream to go there. So I would love to hear, like, what was that
I was
experience?
so happy. Like it was so funny. I'm a little bit ashamed to share this, but I was because they have two retreats. One is like a doula retreat, and one is more like advanced birth workers retreat. And I asked Debra, I was like, I really want it, because when they wrote about the doula retreat, first I was like, but I've done this for years. Like I've learned about this stuff for years. Like, do I need to learn this again, or can I just like go in straight into the advanced stuff? But she was really sweet. She's like, no, like you'll have lots of value of it. Like this is the good one for you.
Mm.
Which it was. I mean, th- th- I really want I choose my teachers well, I'd say, because it's a very vulnerable position to be a student, and who your teachers are is really important because you look up to them and you trust them. So I believe it's like and sometimes we don't choose, we're just dragged, like pulled to people, and that's great. Um, but yeah, I think it's good to really, when you choose to do an education or a training, like, because I believe we live in a culture where it's so easy also to be like, hey, I'll train in this, hey, I'll give you this. So yeah, I'd say it's important to be a bit selective. So when I find these two women who are just legends, I mean, for those who don't know, like Robin Lim, lived out basically an activist life where she's built this birth center in Bali. She does outreaches to disaster zones. She's been a midwife for over 30 years. And she's also, after becoming a midwife, she also did a doula training with Debra. Uh,
Mm.
but she runs this birth center in Bali, all on donations. Um, with the line link, gentle birth heals the earth, like really wanting to impact the world through serving women and babies giving birth. And yeah, so that was just incredible, and really a true like grandmother energy, this wise woman. Like she's seen, I mean, she has so many children, and she's like lived and seen so much. So to just sit with her and hear her stories was just so impactful. And I I was really inspired by her, and like would love to be more activist in a way, because like she's just like, looking at what she believes is fucked up and then standing up for it and creating something. And that is so inspiring, and I would love to have more of that around me here in Sweden. It's so very inspiring. And then Debra, who is, I mean, she's been a part of creating like Dona, and really just, which once again, for those who don't know, is like the Association for Doulas. I mean, you would be very much in that, living in the US here. It's not as big, but just really upping the status of doulas and working with doulas, and been training doulas for like 20 years, and also just like a pioneer when it comes to those things, and having met all the big influence people, kind of influence this field to grow in a way.
Mhm.
uh and she was the same, just like, yes, so full of stories, so full of wisdom, so full of wit. And yeah, So it was really, really amazing. And it was just a full week, all women, like full days, both pairing, you know, the more like education and learning about the processes, and then stories, and then working really practical with different techniques. So it was just like really full. And I know there was some women who were there who were the week after going to the advanced birth worker also. Like it was a woman called Carolina, and she's like, I'm already here. I'm not going to miss the opportunity to just sit with these women. So even if I've worked as a doula in 15 years, I'm going to do first the doula training and then the advanced birth worker, which I found incredible. So yeah, it was amazing. And the two of them together, they were so sweet. They're friends, you know, and laughing. And this is when they meet every year. And of course, you know, part of the proceeds goes to Bumi Saha, the birth center. And yeah, I talk a lot about it, as you can tell. But yeah, it was a great experience. Really, really great.
Oh, I love that you touch on it, because it really has, it's just being in the presence of these women, like, and also of course that sisterhood that come together, and the people you get to know all around the world. And I mean, I could just imagine that you walk away just feeling so like, I'm going to become an activist. I'm like, and that empowerment. So that's incredible. That was just meant to be, that you were there and that happened. Wild.
Yeah, and like you say, also, you know, we're still in contact, because, you know, we have a big WhatsApp group. So someone's like, hey, I have a mother, I want to support in this way. Like, you know, so they really, it's a support network, you know, and also, yeah, a way to like also process things that might have been challenging. And yeah, and so it's really like a cheering on each other on in a community. So it's really beautiful.
So needed. Oh, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. I can't wait for my turn, and I really hope that it happens soon, because yeah, it's the best work I've ever done in my life, for sure. So since then, how, you haven't supported that many births here in Sweden, but what's it been like just starting the doula business, and what does that look like in Sweden? I'd love to hear about maybe your first birth experience here.
Yeah. So what's it like to start? So it's for good and bad. Like, doulaing right now is not my main thing, as I am still like full-time student, and that's really good, because it means that I'm really flexible when it comes to like, I mean, I can always miss things. So like when supporting births, I can be really flexible, and I'm not dependent on like, okay, now I have to have all these clients this month to make ends meet, which is really great. But then it does take some of my capacity also with a 2.5-year-old. So I haven't like driven it as much as I would like to, because when I'm in the space of like now this woman that I was supporting earlier this year, and when I'm in the space of like birth prepping and having these conversations, I'm just sitting there feeling like there's nowhere else I'd rather be, you know, that it's so, I really, really believe in this work. I really, really see the bigger impact that it has when a woman feels empowered and supported during her pregnancy, birth, and early postpartum. I believe that changes so much for herself in her life and how she'll move on from that experience, and for everyone around her. So yeah, it's just, yeah, once again, it just feels really meaningful. And supporting my first birth, I don't know what, like we talked about before, when speaking of stories, there's so many layers, right? One. It was challenging at times, and it really strengthened me in this belief. I left that experience still feeling how important this is. Like, it was shown to me even more what difference it makes to have a person there for you when you give birth, who knows you, who can see you, and who can hold and support the couple, because you enter with something that no one else in that room is with, You know, the mom is having her experience. If there's a partner present, that person is having their experience. If you give birth in a hospital, the medical team has their lenses on it and their perspective. And as a doula, you're holding something differently. And that is really valuable.
Mm. Well, did it teach you anything other than, just that impact and like the importance of it? Was there anything that shocked you or like surprised you?
Hmm. Mm. I remember something Debra said, which I liked, and she says, we have the name doula is a doula. Maybe it should be Bila, because a lot of the times we should just be. So what I could notice is like you walk in and you're like, you want to help, you want to support, you want to do things, and there's a time and place for that. And also acknowledging that and leaning back and trusting, the process. So I think that's something that I'm learning and that I think I will always come back to. It's the same working as a therapist to know, okay, when are you just holding space for something? When are you like leaning in and intervening or offering something? It's so you listen in a lot. I did learn that it takes quite a long time to resettle after a birth. I didn't know that. I mean, having been awake for a very, very long time and then being in this role where you are fully supporting someone, like you're fully there for them. And then afterwards, you have your own integration journey and you have your own resting and you have your own settling back in and changing the hours of the day again and everything. So I have a lot of respect for people who have many, many births every month,
Oh yeah. I mean, it took time, but yeah, I was averaging probably 5 births a month when I was for 3 years. And that's just being on call for 3 years. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's also, it taught me so much just of how important the processing of those births were, to have that with my doula agency, to have my other doulas that I could lean on, because you don't want to like leave your client and call on your backup unless you really have to. And it happened a couple of times. I definitely got in a situation where I needed to do that. But when you're so invested, but you're also running on like zero, it's really hard to show up authentically. So I think that's a really important thing to bring up, is like knowing your limits, and that just comes with time and experience.
And I think that last part that you were saying, I would say that's something that I'm glad that I learned also in this experience. What you said, the importance of leaning on your doula colleagues or friends. Like I had someone that I called or like spoke a voice message to right after, who was like a doula colleague. And that was really, it's just important that to be able to support others, you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah. I remember this one birth. It was like I came home and I just needed to there was this one doula like mentor that I had, and she was like, go into the shower and just wash it all away and give it to the labor goddesses. Just give it all to the labor goddesses and let it go, because it really is like, it really builds up in you emotionally. And I'll be coming home and telling my husband and spiraling and like, the world is like, I just got to change everything. And it's a lot for your family to take on, and listening to all of that. And it was so heavy, but it's like, finding your outlet of like, how do I let this go? How can I wash this off of me? This was a birth I was supporting, and like, how can I give it away? How can I just rinse it off and let it go down the drain to the labor goddesses? I felt like that was one that I started doing regularly that really helped me. But
it's funny. Robin was saying the same thing, cut the cords, water, like have a shower. And the importance of you have your doula hat and you have your activist hat, but you don't wear them at the same time. So like, also when you've been into something, okay, then you can take that off, but then finding that balance. Yeah.
Oh no, I love that too. There's two hats. There really are the whole time, and they're not on at the same time. It's incredible. It's like this journey of learning ourselves too. It's just magical. So did you feel like your own birth, you were mentioning that it was yeah, a very wonderful experience and a positive birth. Do you have anything that you want to bring up, or like how did your birth go?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's crazy. And like, it's funny. I haven't shared much like publicly about my birth story because I have felt that it has been so like sacred in a way, and it's felt so intimate. Um, and but then of course, like we said, you can tell it in so many different levels, but also but I've also thought about a lot about the value of sharing it like in this type of space, because I know that when I was pregnant, I really needed to hear positive birth stories, because I needed to know that it was possible, because I believed that it was possible, but we need to kind of reprogram and actually search for those examples. Not saying that we can ever control how it happens, but still, filling yourself up with that, I think is valuable. So I think a big decision for me was whether or not to have a home birth, where I did feel very like a part of me kind of knew that I wanted a home birth, but it's pretty controversial in Sweden. I'd say it's not very common at all. I mean, it's less than 1%. It's like 0.0, I don't know, it's just like a couple of hundreds every year. I mean, we're just 10 million, so it's not, but yeah, there's not a lot of home births, and you don't hear about it that much. And it can be, people have a lot of opinions around it because you're endangering your baby's lives, and so it's just it can be a bit of a sensitive topic. And so I wasn't fully landing and making a decision in that earlier in the pregnancy. But then eventually, like, I had a conversation with a woman, a friend who's really wise, and she, like, having that conversation with her and her asking a couple of questions made me like, okay, I know this is what I want. It's going to be a little bit of a tough decision because anything that goes against the norm can be challenging. At least for me, I think personally, I've never, I don't care what other people think, I'm just going to do my own thing. Like, no. And also, being pregnant, it can be quite vulnerable because people feel that they have access to you in a lot of ways anyway, like touching your belly and like being really, like, it's just this, your boundaries are less thick, which makes sense because you're expanding and making space for a baby. But yeah, it just changes your relationship to what's around you. But I decided for a home birth. I saw that you had, with Föda i Skåne, with Marie-Louise and Camille, who are incredible. Like, so, I mean, they're just amazing.
Did you have them?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I mean, it actually, I'll tell you how it ended up. It was just Marie-Louise, but but I mean, the amount of care that they gave me, meeting them several times before the birth, coming home and sitting and chatting in our sofa, and like just so much support. And like the week after, both of them were there. Like one of them was there like 2 times. So I just felt so held, like so supported. And yeah, I noticed starting to talk about it, and I can talk so much about the birth. What I can say is that he didn't come out at home. I was laboring through the night. It's always like, where do I start? I was laboring through the night, and okay, you'll have to ask me a question about the birth because I'm like,
Okay.
I'm venturing out.
Of course. Okay, so you end up deciding for a home birth. You're ending up doing your prenatals and things with Marie-Louise, and then you start feeling like labor's starting. Like, how did?
I mean, I started feeling it a little bit, but it's like you're going to run a marathon and you don't know how long it's going to be. So I'd rather believe that I'm on kilometer 1 than I'm on kilometer 39. Like, that was my mental state for most of the most of the birth. I'm like, I don't know how long this is going to go. I don't know how intense this is going to get. So I'm just going to believe that we're really early. Like that was one of my strategies in some ways. So in the beginning, like it started a little bit during the like afternoon, early night, but it wasn't intense. It was just like, okay, stuff is happening. And I was sitting there, but I told my husband, I was like, okay, I want to eat a lot. Like I need to eat something hearty because I think, we're stacking up because it's, and, and we're sitting there eating and I have to stop a little bit at some point and like, And he's like, are you sitting there like taking contractions now without telling me? Because he's like, but I didn't want to say that now it's going because then we're on. But anyway, I went to bed, listened to some like hypnobirthing relaxation that I had been listening to a lot during the whole pregnancy. And then I wake up like boom, after like 20 minutes, it's like, okay, we're not sleeping. Like then it's like, okay, it's picking up kind of, or I need to be with this. So yeah, then just moving into this altered sense of time, because after that it's just like everything is in a flow a bit more. One thing I do know is I had this image of me like, oh, I'm gonna move, I'm gonna dance, I'm gonna sway my hips, and I didn't do that at all because I was sitting down a lot. I was leaning a lot, just leaning on our couch. And I was like, oh, maybe I should stand up. I should stand up and move my hips. And I stand up and it gets really intense. I was like, I'm not standing up. I'm not standing up. So I went down again. And in retrospect, I know that everything went pretty quick. So the reason that it got more intense when standing up was, I mean, it was good that I listened to my intuition and I was more chill. So I think that's something that I learn and I take with me. Like, we can have this image of how we think we will look, behave, but then it's good to just listen to what you think you need. Yeah. And then Marie-Louise came around 4 at night, checked like the heart rate. She's like, yeah, everything's chill. Like, you just go like relax and sleep and try to get some rest. And I was laying in my bed and my partner was laying behind me and pushing my lower back with each contraction. And that, I think those hours, like the early in the morning, was the most intense for me. Like it was really intense. But this is why I'm so happy that I had a home birth, because it was absolutely still around me. Because it was the early morning hours. It was like a light rain outside. Marie-Louise was like sleeping on the couch, resting. And I was just there, like really focusing everything on like breathing and like having my mantras, my affirmation, and having this pressure. Like I was able to be with it because I didn't have to be with anything else. That's what it felt like for me. And yeah, I felt like it required everything. Had anything else been required of me in that moment, it would have been very hard. so I was really glad with that. But yeah, then Marie-Louise woke up a bit later. I went up and I vomited a bit, and then she listened to the heartbeat. Long story short, once again, I can do this. It's so long. His heart rate was a little bit low. She listened again after a while. She still thought it was a little bit low, very undramatic, everything. But then she decided, she's like, I think we should go in because we don't know if the next phase is going to be 10 hours. Like, we don't know. And if he would come out and be a little bit tired, like we might need a more level of care. It's all of these things with home birth, at least in Sweden, where everyone's very, 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 very careful. Like you're 10 steps ahead. And I think that's what people don't understand when they're like, oh, but what if this happened? What if this happened? What if this emergency? Once again, had I been in the hospital and this would have happened, no one would have raised an eyebrow because it's not it's not something dramatic happening. It's just that you're looking at it with another lens when you're a home birth midwife. What she didn't know and what she realized after was that, because then before we went in, she's like, okay, I just want to see how dilated you are before we go in. I hadn't done any vaginal exams until then because I didn't feel like it. Like I didn't see the value of it. And she checked and she's like, okay, you're 9 centimeters dilated. So like that's why that's why it's really intense. That's why, his heartbeat's probably going down because your uterus is really working now the strong contractions. But then again, like, because I think I wasn't so expressive like out, I was more like I said, I needed to go into myself a lot. So maybe it was hard to tell the intensity that I was going through. But either way, we still decided to go in, and I thought it was kind of funny because, like, I don't know, then you kind of got the cab ride to the hospital, and I could instantly feel how the contractions like moved back a bit. They were less intense when we were on the move. I got to like have some contractions in the back of the car. So it was, yeah, it wasn't, once again, it wasn't dramatic. I think if anyone listening to this is thinking about home birth and like, oh, the transit and like a lot of things are not that dramatic, as it might sound dramatic, but didn't feel dramatic at all to me. And you're also high on all your hormones and this psychedelic experience of altered perception of time and everything. So I was just floating along, I feel like, because I wasn't scared. Like, I didn't fear, because I felt I had this mantra also that, no matter how my birth goes, I will be proud of myself. Like, I wanted a home birth, but I would never, like, I also trusted my midwives a lot. That's why I chose to have them. So it wasn't a prestige in it for me to give birth at home. It was more that me knowing how I am, being very sensitive, I felt that the hospital wasn't the right environment for me. And I felt safe feeling at home, and I trusted my body and everything. And also normal pregnancy, healthy, all of these things. So we get into the hospital. I lay down on the bed. And just like a detail which Marie-Louise tells me when I see her, what she found really funny, that when Björn comes in, my husband, he holds this flower in his hand, because I had asked my mother-in-law to give me a bouquet of flowers that I would have next to the pool that I would look at when I was giving birth, like seeing them opening. So he brought one of those to the hospital. So he comes in with his flower and I waddle it. We, once again, I notice this is getting long, but we lay down. I listened to the background track of the hypnobirthing tracks that I had been like working with a lot during the pregnancy, and then my pushing contractions, my what do you say in English, the krystverk.
Over your like pushing sensation.
Yeah, then I was just like those knives that go like this. Like, my whole body was like,
Oh yeah.
Okay, now we're doing something else here. Okay, from being just like, okay, focus on relaxing and opening, is just like, okay, now there was a gear shift. So and this was like within, when we got to the hospital and he got out, it was just like 40 minutes or something. So it was really the pushing, my pushing contraction started basically after laying on that bed, settling. And here I believe like the hypnobirthing helped me a lot, like having that track that I've basically fallen to sleep to for 2 months, just like brought me into relaxation really quickly, and then getting back into the birth, or back into the contractions. And yeah, and then we got out of birth stool. I was sitting on a birth stool. My partner was hugging me from behind. Yeah, there's so much I can talk about in the story, but yeah, and then that was intense. It was really intense. It was this like huge power like surging through you. And I felt like I just like I bow to that power. That is yeah, I mean, it is what births worlds. It's yeah, once again, I can talk about it from different perspective, but for me it's definitely like a spiritual aspect of that, and of that moment, feeling very, very connected, and very yeah, yeah, it's like a peak experience. I don't, in it's, there's a lot of different language to describe it, but I believe for me that the psychedelic language, like speaking of altered states of awareness and speaking of this shifted perception, and also this other perspective of what you are and what you're capable of and what you can surrender to, is really helpful also when integrating afterwards, because you're like, what the fuck just happened? Like, what? And the sweetest thing when I was in this intensity and like flowing with these contractions, and I was just like in this, and my partner, he told me, he's like, you're gonna see him soon. And he said, we're gonna see him soon. And I always cry when I say this part of the story, because yeah, just coming back to that, it's like, all right, that's what we're doing. You're on this whole trip and you're like, whoa, shit, and then it's this, and then it's this, and then it's like, oh, there's just power. And it's like, all right, I'm gonna see my son. Like, I'm gonna meet my baby. He's coming. So I think that was, just opened my heart and like really like helped me to be like, because I believe birth is such a constant surrender, like constantly surrendering everything. And so is parenthood, surrendering your, like moving from your head to your body, surrendering your ideas of what it's going to look or be like or feel like, surrendering your desire to control, surrendering your desire to not feel all this intensity, whatever. You just need to open for it, kind of. I mean, it's not just, it's a lot. And and saying this, I'm also aware that this was my journey and this was my first birth. So this is the lessons that I learned in this. I am sure that with another birth, and every birth has their teachings, and what is needed of you and what is required for you might also be different depending on the setting, depending on the people around, but this is what it was for me.
Oh, Klara, that was just so powerful to listen to. I love a birth story. It's
yes, of course, you're doing. How could you not?
I mean, I would just like, it's why I'm doing this, just to share more of those positive experiences. And even if there was like that transfer to the hospital, that you still did it unmedicated, you still were able to surrender to that sensation of the urge to push. And I just think it's just so fascinating how the body and the hormones work when you're in transition too, from like going from the home to the hospital, how it just slows down because it just knows that, not quite safe just yet, but like, and then as soon as you get there, it's just like you're overcome with this power. And that he was still fine when he came out. And it was just like one of those calls, like you said, that they're very, very safe. They want to play on the safe side, which is totally understandable, but that you can still look back at it as a very empowering experience.
Absolutely. Because also the way that I've seen it is that I believe, even though I did not really think of it that way, I do believe that I carried a certain level of fear around being in the hospital. Like, I didn't want to, because I had heard too many stories of births being a bit disturbed because they're in a system which doesn't always, it's just a system, everyone working in it does their best, but it is the system that we have. So I think I carried some fear around being in the hospital. But then the gift of transiting, like, had I given birth at home and everything would have been planned, I wouldn't have been exposed to that environment. But now I was, and the midwives were incredible. They were like completely hands off, and they were asking me like always asking me for consent, and afterwards when asking, okay, would you like this shot? I would like to do, like, I would like to check this. Is that okay? And so that was really beautiful. I'm glad that I was in that situation. Of course, it was also because they didn't need to intervene in that way, but I felt I'm grateful for that. And also because then we stayed until the next day. So I also got the experience of, being in BAB and this, which I think, I mean, once again, the majority of women do give birth there. So, I mean, especially then moving on to, which I didn't know at the time, but moving on to work as a doula, like it's nice to at least have been in that environment.
Yeah, I can see it being really valuable. I mean, not only like for your clients and that experience, but also for yourself of like it can be really positive at the hospital too. It's like nothing against hospitals or anything. It's really about, it depends on who you're going to get. Like a lot of it is going to depend on the time and day and people that are coming in, but that you got that incredible team is just fortunate.
Yeah, because then also, I mean, my home midwife, she went with us as a doula, but she used to work there as a midwife in this hospital. So, I mean, she was still kind of they were very hands off. Like she was still the one being like, bring out the stool, you know? Yeah. So it's
That's incredible.
Yeah, always fun. And I think also the value of stories, like I have a beautiful friend who I just spoke to earlier, and she gave birth before me, her first child. And the first time we talked on the phone after that, because she doesn't live close, she says, "Oh, you're gonna love to give birth, Klara." And like for someone to tell me that, like I remember telling Robin that, and she's like, "Oh, she set you up really well." Like I think that also is it's really, yeah, for me that was really valuable. And then having an aunt who had told my mom, apparently, like when my mom was supposed to give birth, and she said, "Did it hurt?" And she's like, "Yeah, not that much." So as I was in this birth, knowing the power of the mind, like what am I telling myself? I'm like, not that much, like it's the perception of pain and the perception of like it's so much we can work with there. Not and yeah, so I think that's really interesting.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing. She set you up.
Yeah.
But that's a really good reminder of like, I mean, just being excited about birth and loving birth and like smiling into that contraction and knowing it's productive. And I mean, it's a once in a lifetime experience. You're never going to birth this baby again. It only happens once. And you can, like you said, there's so much you can control in the experience, even though it's such an uncontrollable event. There is so much control and a lot of that you can work with and not, and so many lessons.
Yeah. And I think that's also the value I see like with working with a doula, because then I think sometimes we don't, I mean, that's why a lot of people get a doula for their second birth, because then they know, kind of that it is a big event. But sometimes we don't confront all these things that during the pregnancy, and then we have to confront so much during the birth, like all these fears, all these thoughts, all these like, and I wish people, if there's something I wish people knew, is like to give themselves the opportunity to work things through, to feel things through as much as possible before birth, because once again, there's so much we can't control. But facing certain things and facing certain fears, like I was talking about my fears like the week before, again, like I was doing it during the pregnancy, but like the week before, like when a fear came up, I would like talk with my husband about it, like, okay, this is a fear, because I knew a lot of the fears, if we can process them before, they don't necessarily come up. Because of course I had my fears, like we all have. So yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, thank you so much for just sharing so vulnerably. And I am just so, so grateful for you and your time. And so I would love to just end on, so you're studying, what is your thesis all about? Like, what does that look like? And yeah, if you want to just hop into that a little.
I will. And I just think of one thing more I want to say before saying that, is that what I'm noticing now sharing this story, I believe there's such a balance between acknowledging the positive aspects of birth, listening to positive birth stories, acknowledging all the work that you can do, and then while at the same time holding and knowing that if your birth didn't go as you wanted it to go, or if you felt that you were challenged, it's not that you've done anything wrong. Like, I know that as women, like, it's so easy for us to be like, oh, I should have done more. I should have worked in this way. I should have, like, believing that we are faulty in some ways if we don't do it the perfect way. And you know, this thing of growing a baby for 9 months and birthing a whole new, like, awareness into this earth and caring for that baby, it's like, that's the biggest power and crazy thing there is. And even in that, we can be like, oh, but I didn't do it the right way, or oh, I failed because it ended up being a C-section, or it ended up being this, or it ended up being that. So I feel that birth and becoming a parent hold all of these dualities, because we also need to acknowledge and can acknowledge something that was painful. So I don't know, this is what I mean, but there's so much in birth. Like, it's so ripe for us growing and facing off with really difficult things around being a human. And the way we do that kind of dictates how we live our lives. Like, how well are we facing what it means to be here, what it means to be alive, what it means to exist. Like, birth kind of shoves it into your face. So, like, it gives you an opportunity to actually look at it. So yeah, so just wanted to, like, say that in some way also when speaking of positive birth experience, also acknowledging all of it kind of.
Yes, I love that you bring it up, because it really is. It's like all birth is beautiful. It really is, because it is this expansion and this growth. And the only thing that I feel like we are, like, as a society, needing to help birthing people and women with the most is just being well informed and feeling like it was a positive experience, even though it didn't go as you wanted. It didn't go at all, but that you felt supported, you felt empowered, you were in the C-section and you were like, yes, I'm going to meet my baby. Yes. You know, I was able to do my hypnobirthing. I was able to do my breathing. I was able to do a lot of the things, but still feel so powerful because you're bringing life into this world. Like, that is, I love that you said it is the coolest thing that we get to do. And it is all valid. And there needs to be less judgment out there on how people are birthing their babies. I think it's every person knows what's right for them. And we just, as a society, need to just trust that more, that person knows exactly what's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Only you know you and your body and how you work. So 100% agree to what you just said.
Oh, okay. So what are you doing now? And what is your, I don't know, next year look like?
Yeah. So I'm finishing my studies, which means that I'm starting my final thesis. And what I'm writing about is, like, what sparked my curiosity with this is the concept matrescence. And what matrescence does is that it borrows from the word adolescence, and it speaks about becoming a mother as being kind of a separate developmental period in your life. So what that means is, like, imagine when you're an adolescent and, you know, it's full of hormones. They're changing their sense of self. They don't know who they are. They're like, what does it even mean for me to be here? And, like, who they become in society and, like, what norms shape them, like, everything. Their biology changes, their brain rewires, all of these changes. And we understand that. And if someone's acting kind of strange, or if it's like a big transformation, we're like, yeah, they're teenagers. Like, just give them some space. You walk in one way and you come out another way. So there's a lot of things that are similar to this in becoming a mother. Your body changes, your mind changes. A lot of the time, your sense of self will change. Your relationships will change. There's even an ecological aspect of it, where a lot of people feel that you're more connected to the planet and to the environment. And actually, because all of a sudden you have the next generation, not as like some theoretical, like, oh, what's the world going to be like 2050? No, like 2050, that's my baby when they're this and this age, you know? So it really ties you into another perspective of life. And this is kind of what I want to explore more. So what I'm doing is like I'm interviewing mothers around their experience to becoming mothers. And also another part of this is that we have a very medical model where we are kind of you get into two baskets as a new mother. You either everything's good, or you have postpartum depression, or maybe a third basket's like psychosis or a bit of anxiety. And like not everyone fits into these baskets. So, or you know, a lot of the times it's a lot more nuanced than that. And it's great that we've acknowledged and worked on supporting and finding postpartum depression. It's really, really important. And I believe that there are a lot of mothers who don't qualify for that, but still feel that they need more support, that still feel really disoriented by all of these shifts. And a lot of people, no one told me I would feel this, you know, and yeah, so that's in brief what I'm really passionate about talking about and getting more understanding around, because I believe that we could save ourselves a lot of anxiety and a lot of trouble, and actually having a language for it in another way. It makes sense.
It makes so
Yeah.
sense. And when you first told me about it, I was like, I'd never heard that. And, you know, having worked in this field since like 2013, like that's wild that I haven't like even heard that expression before. And the way you lay it out is so beautiful, because it is that identity shift completely. And I can't wait to see all that you do and all the places you go and all the lives that you change, because yeah, I just feel like that, just having talked to you now and just seeing you on Instagram, it's just like you're so inspirational. And there's just like you said, you're kind of pulled towards certain people, and I was just like, I just have to talk to you, just like you're gonna do big things, and you can like, yeah, I just feel it, and I'm excited for you, and just, yeah, so grateful and just proud that you shared that beautiful story, and just proud of you for doing that and listening to that intuition. It just gives so much power to so many others that it can really help. So I'm very grateful for you going into all of these different conversations with me.
Well, thank you. That's so sweet to hear. Thank you so much for that. It's been really, it's really easy to talk to you, obviously. I'm glad that we've been able to bounce around so much. And it makes me happy that you say Instagram also, because I have such a hate-love relationship to it. So I'm like, oh, but it's actually nice if you did find me there. Like, that's a good thing, because otherwise we wouldn't be sitting here, you know? So acknowledging that also.
It's so true. I feel the exact same. Like, I'm really not like an Instagram like person, but I feel like I'm going to share birth. Like, that's something that I can control. That's something that, like, that activist in me. How can I make the world a better place for all birthing people? It's to share stories, to share this kind of thing. So even if I was super uncomfortable the first few videos doing this, I'm like, well, what am I doing? Who do I think I am? But I was also like, this is important. Like, this is what my soul is called to do. Like, how can I change the world in my small way? It's through this, and talking to mothers and new parents and learning from each other and spreading it all.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're doing this work. Really about that.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Klara. I can't wait to see all the places that you go, and we'll be in touch.
Likewise, we will be. Look forward to seeing you sometime.
Absolutely. Bye.